but God forbid I actually read the history books. If it doesn't have a romance in there, I wasn't going to study it. Okay, so Gone with the Wind, I get The Fall of Atlanta. I got it. But you want me to read about the Civil War? No. So I've always felt, because I hate the research, and I don't know if it's the ADHD or I just, whatever the reason, the research has always been a stumbling block for me.
Hi, everyone. It's Samantha Tennant, and welcome to another Fresh Fiction Video Book Club. Tonight, we have a longtime friend of Fresh Fiction. I have known Jade now for over 10 years, I
Oh,
think.
no, we
Definitely over.
can't possibly be that old.
Oh, I know, right? Never. And I was reading her well before I met her in person. So it was a big thrill. And tonight, like I said, Jade Lee, author of over 70 novels.
I think I'm 80 now.
80 now. Everywhere I was looking, it was like the number was increasing by another 10. And I was like, okay,
Well,
here it is.
I've done a minimum of 2 books a year since the year 2000. And once I started with the multiple pen names, then I got more. And then with ebooks, I started writing ebooks. You really need to do 4 to 6 books a year. I didn't maintain that. But then I threw in some kids books, and so those kids book the I do the very simple board books, so it's 200 words. It's not like they take a long time to write, a long time to refine once you have the idea. And then I sold those years ago, but then the artwork has to come. And so boom, last year I had 3 extra books out because they're kids' books. And this is my full-time job. And God knows I can't stick on one path. I gotta just splinter.
And see, people, with all of that, obviously, we are going to have nothing to talk about
Nothing at
today.
all.
Nothing at all. 70, 80 books, multiple industry awards, including Fresh Fiction's steamiest book. I forget which one exactly that was for, because there's a lot of steamy books out there.
I don't remember which one, but it was a Jade Lee historical that it was just my average steamy, which apparently is. I don't write erotica, but when I do go that direction, I don't hold back.
The heat level is definitely up there. Yes. But tonight, you are Jade Lee as opposed to some of your other aliases, Kathy Lyons, Kat Chen, and with your latest book that's released, The Duke's Guide to Fake Courtship. It's a start of a brand new series. And there, of course, is the cover. And Jade, I do want to kind of jump into it. Normally, we have lots and lots of fun. We're going to have fun tonight. But I also want to touch on, because it is AAPI month. So Asian American Pacific Islanders Month. Got it straight. I had to make sure I got that. And with this book, hey, I try to look at this, but with this book, your heroine is biracial in that she has a Chinese mother. This is not exactly the easiest storyline to always incorporate into what people are thinking of for Regency England historical romances. But this is not your first book. You have had other historical romances that have also delved into your Chinese heritage. How important is that for you, being an Asian American writer, which there are not many in the romance field? There's more, but then also incorporating it into your novels.
Honestly, okay, so if you look at the historical fact, this would not have happened. The Chinese were in England at this time, but they were sailors, or if it was female, they were not gently bred young ladies. But in terms of being an Asian American writer, this book is actually the truest to me because she's half and half. And none of my books have, I say aloud, editors, when they came to me and wanted me to do something from the Chinese heritage, they didn't want it muddied. They wanted, okay, either set in China, or you need a Chinese heroine who I'm the one who declared, no, I'm not going to, I've got The Temptress, I've got my China in China books. So for Harlequin, I wanted to take the Asian girl into England. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were at this time period, it was possible that half an biracial children might have been born, but they would not have survived typically. So she did survive, and a bunch of her other half people friends survived. And then she is brought to England. So that is purely fictional, but the idea of being half, if you have any ethnicity in your past, how do you know which part of you is Irish, which part of you is American, which I people ask me about my heritage, and I often say my mother is Chinese, my father is Indiana Hoosier. And I was talking to an English person about that, and she was like, what? And I said, Caucasian. It's okay. You're from England. You're excused for not knowing what a Hoosier is. But this book, I really got to feel more at home with. She's not Chinese. She's not accepted by the Chinese, and trying to find a home among the English was not going to work either until the Hot Duke said, actually.
And so how were the publishers receptive to that then? It is with Harlequin.
Harlequin came to me and asked me, they wanted to bring, and it was clearly, we want to bring in more ethnicity into the historicals line. They actually were inviting me to write something in the Tang Dynasty or something like that. And I was like, no, especially since Harlequin historicals are the print books, it has to be Regency. So they came to me looking to expand the culture in their books. And so I had to find a scenario that I liked where I could bring the Chinese into England. And having seen Shonda Rhimes, the Tins, she's got Chinese, she's got all the ethnicities in her shows. So it's, you know what? I can too. And if they have Chinese people in the Bridgertons, they can have half and half people too.
And how then, I think that this is purely fictionalized, but how much research are you doing to pull things in? Or was it really just writing the story and then going back? I know, yeah.
Can I make an awful, terrible, horrible confession?
Did you not do any research at all, Jade?
Actually, I did a ton. I would never have been able to do this if I subscribed to Claude AI. And so whenever you use an AI, you have to double check it. But it was like, okay, in these years in China, which are the 13 factories district? How would, and so I could type into Claude the exact question that I wanted answered, and it would come up with an answer. And several times it said, I don't know the answer, but I could speculate or I would guess this. And so in general, because I'm doing a work of fiction, I don't need to know the actual what really happened where. But in general, the process of because no, it's 13 factories district, which I think was 5 miles. I can't remember how many miles long. No women were allowed there. That was just this one area where the ship owners came and negotiated for goods. Now, it's possible if you are a silk merchant and you want to sell stuff to the white monkeys, and I'm taking their word for it, you might have ways to incentivize some ship owners to pick your silks over other silks. The AI said, I asked the AI quite explicitly, were prostitutes brought in to tempt these people? And it said that yes, but double check. And I think, I can't remember specifically, but I did a ton of research just with Claude saying, okay, and then where did you get that from? And then Claude would give me a reference and I could double check it if I cared. but it was enough to build the backdrop for this book and the sequel book, which comes out at the end of this year, I think. I'm like looking at my calendar. I'm not sure, but yes, the sequel book, because they're not related by blood, but another half sister who comes to England with her. And
Because that's Lucy's book, right?
Lucy's book, yes.
I'm fascinated also now with your use of Claude and the AI, because that is such a hot topic. And
Let me tell you, Claude does not write any of my words. Claude has helped me with back cover copy. I will admit to that. But Claude never writes my words. But Harlequin I will give you another example. Harlequin has just asked me, they got this brilliant idea of doing an Anna and the King of Siam type book, only in the Regency. So at this time, and I just did, so Siam became Thailand. And I'm trying to do an appropriate analogy. People just assume that Asian cultures are the same. But in actual fact, Chinese culture, which I know relatively well, and Thai culture are very different. And so stuff that would take me forever to research and figure out, I was able to type into Claude and say, this year, how many children did the King of Siam have? The answer was 73. So perhaps if you're kid number 72 and 73, your odds of getting the throne are small.
Yeah.
So and it took me a while to figure this out, but I said, imagine a trade deal with England potential trade deal between Siam and England in this time period. What might be a bone of contention? What might be cultural confusion? And it came up with a list of things that were possibilities, and I'm the one who selected. One that popped out is that the Thai culture or the Siamese culture is a tropical culture. So they were very particular and quite a many rules about hygiene and bathing, which were not necessarily true in the Regency at this time in England. And a big thing was it was considered appropriate and noble for young men to go in to become a monk for a year or two. And during that year or two, they have absolute rules on chastity, on purity, and prayer and all of that. But at the end of a year or two, they can say, it's not for me, or I never intended it to be more than a year. And they can choose not to. So these are little bones of little places where I can put story. So
because I'm using Claude and some other chatbots also at my office. So day job, engineering, totally different space. But I have a lot of discussions with another friend of mine at work, Mark Mason, where we're going back and forth about what can we use the Claude for? And it's like these prompts, right? They're not able to necessarily replace the work that we're doing and that creativity element, but it's what about this, or using it as a resource to save us time. So we're not going through and digging it. Okay, what is the answer to this question and where did you get the information from? And we can go straight to it. But I love how you're using it also of here's some other historical factoids, and then that's almost like a leaping off point for some other story elements.
It absolutely is. And believe me, it took me a while to really drill down on how to do this. So going back to The Duke's Guide to Fake Courtship and then the sequel book, A Man in Want of a Wife, I think is the name. But anyway, it's Lucy's book. I have Lucy as a young girl running around in the 13 Factories district where she's not supposed to be. She's pretending to be a boy. And so I could have checked out reams, stacks of books on this particular area of China in this time period. It was very specific and it's been well researched. Or I could type it into Claude and say, okay, what were the rules? Because the law was very clear, and there were even rules about what time of day the white people could be there and what areas and all of that. So what are the rules? And that just gave me the base structure, exactly what I needed, and then I could build my fiction off of it. It just
And that
it
we spend your time where
short,
you really need it for being creativity,
right.
the creativity element, as opposed to reams of research that you might include in just a couple lines.
My other confession is that I hate research, and I have always believed that true historical romance needs that good romance, but it's supposed to be rooted in history. And I've always feared that I am not rooting my stories deeply enough in history because just the amount of research and there's a lot. And I came to historical romances I love the love story, but I did appreciate little bits of history that I picked up there, here and there. But God forbid I actually read the history books. If it doesn't have a romance in there, I wasn't going to study it. Okay, so Gone with the Wind, I get the fall of Atlanta. I got it. But you want me to read about the Civil War? No. So I've always felt, because I hate the research, and I don't know if it's the ADHD or whatever the reason, the research has always been a stumbling block for me. This has helped
Mhm.
me so much. I cannot tell you how much easier it is for me to just type and I don't, there are levels. My husband was like, why are you paying? So I'm on a pay level of Claude, not the
Mhm.
highest, but like a middle level. Just type it into the Google chat or whatever. And I've done that, and it splinters out and it doesn't give me the answers. It's never good
There's
enough,
just
and
too
it's
much data.
never,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's worth it to me to pay for this middle version that actually really short circuits the research. So I don't feel like I'm
Mhm.
doing a wallpaper historical anymore. I feel like there's actual grounding in fact, even though a half Chinese, half Caucasian baby would not have survived.
Do you find it also helps you almost shortcut, maybe? And I don't know if that's the right term, but to get into the right mindset for this series, because your previous series with Vixen and Temptress, that was a completely different setting, different style of book. And like you said, you also have been doing the kids' books with Kat Chen, and then hopefully you're working
It
on a
gives
couple
me a
paranormals there.
confident
I mean, different styles.
it gives me a confidence and a way to leap into, because my imagination can go all sorts of different places. I can have aliens beaming down and frogs talking to, I can have all of that, but just I have spent a lot of time with Claude's drilling down in the research until it's the same thing I would be doing in a book. In any of the
Mhm.
research tomes, I'd be looking at the table of contents and skimming and trying to find just what I want. And all of those I would still be drilling down to, oh, wait, I like that idea. Let me go a little further. The Vixen and Temptress books came from, I read, this was before AI, or before I discovered the help with AI, that in, I think it's 1851 or 52, I can't remember what year, the call went out to all the eligible women in China that the emperor was out of mourning and eligible women could come to the Forbidden City to apply to be the empress. That was it. That was the one fact. And then I drilled down and learned more about the Feast of Fertility. And if anyone's read Temptress, you might notice a slight fictionalization. In the Forbidden City proper, there is only one male who is not a eunuch. So the hero of
Makes it hard for a romance novel then.
so the hero's best friend, who is in charge of the Feast of Fertility, who happens to be the hero of the book. Spoiler, he's not a eunuch. So there is room and space for my imagination to take off and not slice and dice my hero.
The other thing, okay, so with research not exactly being your best friend with all of this, what then is it that draws you time and time again to historical romance? Because that's where I first met you, was as Jade Lee, reading all of these historical novels. But then as Kathy Lyons, you're writing contemporary, you've got the paranormals. I love all of those. But this is where you keep coming back to.
I have asked myself that a zillion times, especially as historical sales are not exactly as booming as I would like. I don't know why. Because I love a good paranormal. I love the shifters. I've never quite grooved with the vampires. That's more of, I found out again a little history bit that the soul being in the blood is a very Eastern European notion, which is where you get vampires. Whereas in China, the ghosts, the spirits, we never connected the blood with the spirits. So I'm much more into ghosts and stuff like that. Why the historicals? I wish I knew. I I don't know. Damn it. I grew up in a formal household and I was loud and my mother and my mother and my father's mother, so maternal grandmother, both of them were very much children should be seen and not heard. This is not my strength, sitting in the corner and being quiet. I know I'm shocking you by that.
I was not going to say that. No, never even occurred to me.
When I first started reading Regency romance, it was all about the hoyden, the girl who was just pushing against the rules of society and just trying to break free. And I loved that growing up. Absolutely 100,000%. I was the loud child who was being suppressed. And gosh darn it, I will be polite here. I wanted a hot duke, or when I first started reading it, it was always viscounts when I started reading regencies. And then they all became earls. And now they're all dukes. And with my Siamese princes, they're now going to be princes.
Yeah, I remember in history class, they were like, how do you know all of this English peerage? I'm like, because I've read a lot of historical romances. Yes.
This is why. I But why do I keep coming back to this time period? I don't know. And every time I have to look up again, damn it, what type of fabric and how, which corset and undressing, and I still to this day, and you're going to be appalled, the difference between pants and trousers.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he took off his bottom half. I don't know. Every time I fight the research, but there's research in contemporaries too. I
Oh,
did
yeah.
years ago. I'm not even sure it was ever published. I did a cave diving book. In fact, I know it wasn't published, but our heroine was a cave diver who was searching for her dead brother. And so I did all this research on cave diving. And so there's always research, but I don't know, there's something about a historical that I just love.
Hopefully, I didn't send you off into too many research paths when I was suggesting shifter books with the Scottish fold kitten that you released for
Oh
us.
yeah, I did write wait a moment. Did
You
I
did,
write that?
yes.
I
You did.
did.
Yes, you
Well,
did.
and it would be a lot easier now that
Funny.
I know I can just type into Claude AI, how is a Scottish fold kitten, how was it created? And see, there's research for everything.
Yes. And you never know where those things are going to come from. All
I
right,
will
Jay,
love
let's
you
see if we can get a
forever
couple
for that.
fiction questions.
The Scottish fold kitten. And I will love you forever for that.
Yes. You got to throw out some wacky things every once in a while.
There is one series that I had plotted out and it came from a bar discussion, and I know we are wildly off topic, but I wanted to do a series of weird wares. So, like a were sloth and were sunflowers, and the bloodsucker was a were mosquito. And then, yes, this was a bar discussion at a conference. And then one of the heroes is he's shrinking. It appears to be shrinking. He is a cousin living with his cousins of were rabbits. They're all jackrabbits, but he's an Angora bunny. And so the way he is paying for his room and board is they're forcing him to shift, and then they'd shave him for the hair.
Oh my
And then
God.
I had this whole in a, I don't know, 2, 3 hour discussion at the bar. We had this whole thing worked out.
But Jade, I would pick that up and read it. Everyone makes fun of me. I am reading, yeah, that would be so up my alley for books that I would. This looks really interesting.
Shaving from seed. This is,
Yes,
I
there would be
don't
an
know if
audience.
it's the ADHD or just my brain goes into wild and wacky places. But maybe
Wild
one
and
day I
wacky,
will write.
yes.
And it was a high school thing. So it was a high school for were creatures. And so it wasn't just the typical werewolf or, what, were grizzly, whatever. I wanted them for weird wares. And the problem with that is I have tried to write young adult. I even did a manuscript with my godson when he was in high school, and I just could not get the voice right. I ended up and but yeah, I am trying in my old age to write more stories. And actually the pandemic did this to me. Am I writing for what the publishers want, or I'm writing because I love writing? And it's a pendulum that swings, that I've had books that I've written because obviously the publisher said this is what I want. And I've had them that I wrote just because I loved them. And many of the ones that I wrote just out of pure love never went anywhere. But they were worth the experience because I ended up taking whatever I learned from whatever book and pulling it into a more commercial product. But hey, warped imagination is right. Maybe I'll go back and do just I don't know, three novellas of weird wares.
I think that would be awesome. And as another source of weird wares, I'm sure I can come up with more than just the Scottish fold kitten.
That's true.
Gee whiz.
Do it from the teacher's point of view. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
From a YA perspective, it would fit.
That is fantastic. In my spare time now.
Exactly.
Now you're going to sit. I am supposed to be writing I'm part of an anthology in October.
What's next? What are you working on now? Yeah. What are you working on now? Tell us that.
I just finished The Truth Serum, which is part of my Ladies Potion series, which might be from the super secret, I haven't confessed, other pen name. So you are getting the true exposure here. After much discussion with people in the industry, the belief is that Jade Lee never broke out because it's an Asian name. And so I have topped out the market of people who are willing to read, even when I was writing pure Caucasian. The Jade Lee name cut off my audience. So I have secretly, now I'm confessing, I have launched Kathy Lyons. So that's the blue book here. Rules for a Fake Fiance. The website, everything. And I'm dropping things now. If you look at Kathy Lyons' website and you look at her bio picture, it's me behind a fan. So if you know who I am, if you've met me, you can figure it out. But most of the audience in the world has not actually met me. So this is the experiment. I am doing like 6 books this year to really launch Kathy Lyons. Yes, now it's
That's a
taken me
lot.
a while to write to it, but anyway, have you ever seen those, I don't know, Facebook reels? See if anyone knows anything about this TikTok thing and Facebook
Yeah.
reels. Started coming up on my Facebook reels old clips from The Ghost Whisperer. Do you
Oh,
remember that
okay. Yeah.
series?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, with Jennifer Hewitt.
exactly. I started watching more and more of those clips, and I got invited into this anthology in October, which has to do with ghosts. And so I want to do a ghost whisperer type series, but with love stories, obviously. You're making me think two different prominent Asian writers. Oh, yes, absolutely. And that has been quite the discussion ever since I became Jade Lee is the Asian name, and has that hurt me or helped me? And I think the conclusion so far, people think it's hurt. So trying to absolutely launch under a pure white bread name. I don't know. But we're doing the experiment, and now I'm going to put together. So, anyway, I just finished this afternoon the rough draft of, so it's My Lady's Potions. The first one is the love potion, the truth serum. And then later on, there's going to be Passion's Poison. There's, oh crap, I can't remember all the titles but they're fun books. But meanwhile, I'm watching old Ghost Whisperer episodes and going, wait, could I make that into a romance? So I'm going to try and put that together. Actually, on the flight, I'm flying out to Book Lovers Con. Yay, I'm going to see y'all. And I'm going to start playing with how I can do that. Now, if you remember the series, the Jennifer Love Hewitt has a loving relationship, and it's everybody else that she's helping with the ghosts. So how do I turn that into, the main character sees ghosts, but then it's not a series if she falls in love and gets married and is. So I'm going to start with a set of twins.
Ah,
So
okay.
so we introduce the concept, and she falls in love and gets married, but she has another twin with the same power or a similar power, and then she can help others find love until she finally does. And again,
Awesome.
this is my wacky brain going, I can't, of course, just write a single ghost story, because no, what fun would that be? I have to branch off into a whole new series off
Build the
of a
whole
stupid
world.
Facebook
Yes.
reel.
Jade, with all of that and the very few things that you have going on and
No.
that are on tap, where with all these different names is the best place for our fresh fiction readers and listeners to keep up with you and find out exactly what is going on?
JadeLeeAuthor.com, or if you want Catherine, it's Catherine, I think, Lyons.com. But you know what? If you just join my newsletter, and I love fresh fiction. You got all the information on me too. But honestly, my newsletter, just pick up the newsletter from the website. And if you come to my newsletter or come to me from Kat Chen, who is for some reason, the editors of the kids' picture books did not want me to use the same name as I did with hot adult romance.
Go figure.
Go figure. So I have a separate newsletter for her, and in Kat Chen's bio or website, it says, click here for adult books. FYI, just click over there.
Jade, as
It's
always,
really my daughter's fault because they had children.
oh my gosh.
Your life changes when you have grandchildren. I swear to God, I was not this loving or nurturing with my own kids. Something happened to my brain. I really did not expect I'd be one of those doting grandparents. But you want to see pictures? You want to know what I impulse bought them yesterday? I'm a cliche.
But always an interesting and fascinating cliche to talk with, Jade. You're always so much fun. And this
And
was another great evening with you. But for everyone else, stick around because Jade will be able to answer some of your questions. And if you haven't picked up her latest book, go out, do that now. It's The Duke's Guide to Fake Courtships. It's the start of a brand new series, The Daring Debutantes. And when Jade's talking about where do these books go, I can tell you where they go. They go on my bookshelf because I have them
mwah,
all. Jade Lee, Kathy Lyons. I don't have
and
the Kat Chen. Sorry,
and
that's
and
not in my
Sarah
book.
is reminding me to say that Dolly Parton has picked my first Kat Chen picture book to be part of her
No
imagination
way.
library. I am so thrilled. It's Play With Me by Kat Chen. It's a board book for really, this is 1 to 3 year olds. And
That is
yes,
awesome.
Dolly Parton loves me. And I have a picture standing next to a cardboard cut up of Dolly Parton.
That is so awesome. That goes up there with a lot of the other awards. Hey, that is cool.
I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations. Okay, see, we've given you even more information. So there's lots of things for our readers and listeners to go check out. Be sure and do that. And if you join us live for the video book club, stick around and we'll answer your questions during our happy hour.
Happy hour. Yay.
Thanks, Jade.
Thank you.